All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Really excited for today and to introduce you guys to today's guest. We have Courtney Beck out in Sydney, Australia, and excited for you guys to meet her. I came across her Instagram page not too long ago and immediately saw the energy she was sharing with her audience and knew that she just enjoyed inspiring and uplifting. And Courtney uses her spiritual guides to be able to do healing and coaching and just add a lot of impact to her clients there in Sydney and all over the world as she's working with people. I'm just really excited to chat with her today and have a fun conversation with her. So without further ado from me, I'm going to introduce you guys to Courtney. And Courtney, if you could share with the audience so they're more familiar with you, who you are, what you do, why you do it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me, Noel. So my job on a day-to-day basis, I probably have a bit of a weird job, but I actually work with spirits and spirit guides to help people live their best life. So that involves healing and helping people with their life purpose. But I didn't always do this job. My actual background is in the corporate world. So it's been a big shift the last few years.
Big shift for sure. Probably much more fun, fulfilling, interesting, adventurous.
Definitely interesting.
The words that come to mind.
Yeah.
I too have once upon a time been in the corporate world, and there was nothing else in my life that sparked more desire for freedom and to be able to have more fun and be more fulfilled than that time of life, which I appreciate it for now because that was really the driving force in a lot of the things that I do now to have that freedom. So for you, when it comes to being able to connect with spirit and to be able to share information to the people that you're working with, when was it that you discovered this ability that all of us can tap into, but at the same time, some of us have really become fully aware of that and now are not only using it to benefit your own life, but also to share with others. When did this kind of light bulb moment happen for you where you began to doing this?
So I've actually had it my whole life, and my grandma had the same abilities, but I didn't find out until she was in her 90s. And I always just thought I was a massive weirdo, that I could see ghosts and that I would have these experiences, and I would see people who had passed would always very creepily turn up at the end of my bed or next to my pillow. And so for a long time, I really didn't want anything to do with it because it was just blatantly scary and never a pleasant experience. Spirits don't go by business hours. They just choose to turn up when they would like to. So I just, I very much said no for a long time. And I think my way of saying no was that I chose a really logical career path. So I went into the world of strategy, which is basically solving business problems for, multi-million-dollar brands, which is very grounded in the real world and in money and everything that I've kind of, I guess, let go of now in a way. And so I'd hit a point in my career where I got to my dream role, the role that I'd been climbing the corporate ladder for my whole career, to become a strategy director. And I remember sitting in the chair and going, is this it? It was almost like I was waiting for enlightenment at that moment, and it didn't come. And then my now wife, Jules, was really sick at the time, and we'd seen every possible expert and no one could give us any answers. And I remembered that as a kid, I'd actually done Reiki to help with my asthma at the time. So once again, a very strategic decision to do that just for health benefits. But it was in this moment of not knowing what to do with Jules that I turned back to my healing. And it was just this moment where it was like my whole life was collapsing and I literally had no choice but to start opening back up that part of myself that I'd ignored for so long. Because I'd been able to channel as well, meaning that I could speak to spirits too, but it was kind of like my dirty little secret. And every now and again, if I couldn't solve a business problem, I'd ask the spirit world what their thoughts were. But it was like, I would never speak about it. And so it was in this moment of just feeling like my life was falling apart that I actually had the Hindu deity Krishna come through, and I started channeling him. And that was when life kind of changed from spirituality and ghosts and spirits being this really scary thing to everything turning to golden. And then it turned my life upside down. And I think 5 years later now, here I am. So
Super interesting.
it's been a wild ride.
Yes, no, super, super interesting. And I want to touch on, because I know you have a book called Conversations with Krishna.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But so were you able to use, so when you, because I find this fascinating how when I've talked to a few guests where this was kind of what shifted things for them, where they had either a big life challenge for themselves, a lot of times health related, where it's like, okay, I have no other choice but to reach out for guidance as far as how we can get to back to health, or to solve whatever challenge it might be. Were you able to immediately use the guidance? I mean, I know the answer to this, but I guess I kind of want to know how and what it looked like for you. Were you able to use the guidance to help your wife as far as her health challenges, and like how did that look, and how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I just threw everything at it, because obviously if the person that you love is so sick, I think every human being on this earth would literally drop everything, do everything to help that person. And so I initially went back to just what I'd learned with Reiki, but then when I realized that wasn't probably going to be enough, that was when I actually tapped into my ability to speak to the spirits. And I was like, guys, what do you want me to do? Like, just tell me, I'll do anything. And that began, I guess that began a journey for both of us back into this spiritual plane. And I remember with Jules, she was so unwell at the time, and she asked what her life purpose was, and they told her that she was going to be a healer as well and a writer. And at the time she was like, screw you guys, like, I just need to get through this. But I think everything links up for a reason. And that, I guess, every single client that I see now, I always joke that people only come to me when they're literally on their knees. And I think that's sometimes what it takes to see someone like me. You've got to have tried everything. But it's funny that what brought me to my knees was what brought me into this role. And that's what I do now for other people when they're at that point.
And so that's so interesting. But the question I have about that, because I'm really curious about this. You had an advantage because you had been seeing, like when your clients come to you and you said that they're on their knees, and they just like, they're open to whatever. This is answer to my own
anything.
Answer to my own question right now. Because of their openness is what allows them to be able to feel what you're giving them and to be able to use it for their benefit. I was going to say you have an advantage because you have been seeing spirits and being able to tap in from an early age, as long as you can remember. Because if someone came to you and like, they're like, okay, let me try this, but they're like totally closed off to anything, potentially being a part of their healing. I'm sure it has to be pretty tough to help someone that isn't open. But if they're coming to you, hopefully it sounds like they're open to how you could help them at that point. Is that your experience mostly?
Yeah, generally they are, because they've literally tried everything else, and I'm often, for a lot of people, their last stop. So I work a lot with people who are considering suicide because they've tried absolutely everything else on earth, and they just don't feel this is their last ace that they're trying. So when you are working with someone who's willing to give anything a shot, then the spirits and every other energy on the planet will come in to help them make that transformation. I've had the odd client where they're not a believer, and initially when I first started doing this work, because when I work with people, they bring me a wish list of what they want to work on. And so the place where I always start is, how are you feeling mentally, emotionally, and physically? Because that normally sums everything up. So I've had people initially that came to me with huge wish lists, and that they wanted everything solved in one single session. And whilst I would love that too, sometimes the things that we're dealing with form part of a wider and a broader lesson that we're here to learn together. So sometimes I'm amazed, sometimes we can work with somebody and release something like that. Like I have clients I've worked with on anxiety, and they've suffered anxiety their whole life, and we can do one session and it'll be gone. And then for other people, it won't have that same effect. And that's, I think, because sometimes the things that we're dealing with are here to teach us. Like I would have never stepped into this path had I not been literally dragged down the freeway, not by my own will to do it. So, and I, if I encounter people like that, I try to help them deal with that. And the other thing the spirits tell me is that our work together is 50-50. It's 50% you and it's 50% us. So it's a collaboration between the two of us. And what's right at the time will happen.
Absolutely. Quick question when it comes to like the anxiety clients, because that's a big topic that I hear a lot of people talking about. And the reason I do what I do, Courtney, is and have these conversations, and everything that I do is I like to shine the light of awareness onto, to who and what we truly are, which once we have the light of awareness and the light bulb turns on, now it becomes a choice as far as, how we choose to think about certain subjects, and, how we choose to present ourselves to the world as far as our right now frequency, our vibration, our energy. And so I just love helping people become aware of that. When it comes to the anxiety, because it's super cool that you're able to, with some, be able to help them release that in one session. Because I'm sure most, because of, it's just like we have these habits of thoughts for all of us. Like the older we get, like we're just used to thinking about subjects in certain ways. And, a lot of times, if not all the time, I'm sure anxiety has to do with, potential future events that we're worried about being a certain way. So, for the times that you've seen someone be able to release that really quickly, whether it be one session or a few sessions, that's so fascinating to me, because I know that they have, like, coming in before they meet you, they have like this habit of thinking about life in a certain way. And even though, like, for instance, when I had the light bulb switch on, there were still parts of my life that, I had to like look for it now. And I guess I'm again answering my own question, because once you give them the awareness, now they have the choice to look for it in their day to day, and then they could be like, I'm starting down this path again, and they could stop themselves before momentum gets them all the way where they're used to going, where it's just like feeling miserable, because anxiety can turn into powerless and depressed quickly for any of us. Yeah. So for those, is it what you're helping them do is to have the full light shining on, okay, this is why you're feeling this way, and this is, so they can have the awareness to go choose something different in the future? Is that part of what you're sharing with them, or how does that work?
Yeah. So how I look at it is like an octopus. So people will come to me and they'll show me all of their legs, and that's all of their symptoms that they're presenting. And my approach is, we can remove the legs one by one, but really we just need to go for the head of the octopus. And that head can be, like a trauma that they've suffered in their life. We actually do a lot with past lives. So a lot of what we work with is actually stuff from thousands of years ago. And I think that's because I don't know, I think lots of people wonder, have I had a past life? When really the question is, how many past lives have I had, and how many things have I accumulated over that period of time? And so often the anxiety and the fears that we're dealing with are not even from this life. So for instance, I actually have had my whole life a fear of swimming and having my head underwater. In this life, I had a swimming teacher who used to push my head under the water as a kid, which definitely contributed to it. But there was something deeper than that. And it's funny because I love the ocean. Like, my happy place is being right near the water. But when I look back into my past lives, I actually had a drowning where I went off the edge of a cliff in a car and with the seatbelt on, and I drowned. And so in this life, I've been really working on releasing the incident I've had in this present life, but also the one in the past life as well. And now I'm swimming every morning. That's what I do. Swimming every day is like my happy place. So I'm learning to teach myself to swim. But like, that's just one example of the things that we can be storing that create this sense of anxiety that we have. But I was even thinking while we were talking, we talk a lot about life purpose, but I actually think that our life purpose is to heal ourselves. And I think that's essentially what we're here to do. And once we have that awareness of what's going on inside of us, that's half the battle, because I guess a lot of people aren't even willing to look at what's happening. You can feel and you can learn to live in this way where your pain threshold is up here, and that's kind of, that becomes your life, when it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we learn to live with how we feel, just always thinking, I guess life is just like this. There has to be a certain level of pain. Whereas, and I think this is what you're working to free people from as well, is to know that life can be freaking amazing and it can feel really good. But we're so used to feeling bad that we don't actually know what it is to feel good, because we've never had that context. So in the work we do, we work to free the body and the mind and the heart, because there's things stored in the mind, and the heart is like a treasure chest of things as well. And basically what we do is we work to empty people out. But once you have that awareness that you need to look within, and every time you feel a trigger point coming up, like, that's half the battle, just being aware that it's there and knowing that it doesn't have to be there, which is, I guess, the beauty of if you can see your body as energy, like, anything can be changed. If you see it as a tangible object, then of course you instantly go into, I guess, I have this ailment, or I have this disease, and it's with me forever. When if you can see the body as an energetic being, then anything in energy can be pulled out and released.
I love it. I love it. And I would, I agree with you with life purpose, and I'll add like one more sentence, which makes it even more fun for all of us. It's to heal ourselves and be able to be full expressions of who and what we truly are. So that
100%.
yeah, because that's what I love. Like, I love because the only way that I was able to uncover blind spots that were affecting me was I went to a meditation retreat, where before that I wasn't in the habit of meditating. I'd done it, but I didn't trust myself that I knew how to do it. So it just became something of more like a task that I wasn't good at. And I was like, so I just wasn't into it. And then I realized that there was no right or wrong way. And I actually, got to practice for a week that's what we were there for, to learn how to do that. And then I started doing, I started asking questions in meditation as far as, source, universe, God, universe, all it is, whatever you want to call it. Show me some blind spots that are affecting my energy, because I know that I have them and I want to see them. And I was able to uncover them in meditation, and then started to see them playing out in my, my waking life and my waking day. And once they became an awareness, like, I had no problem even now. Like, if I ever find myself being critical of myself or others or anything, I just tell myself, stop it, Noel, within one thought. Like, I don't have to think about it for a minute or an hour or a day or longer, which, before that was a part of it. And so, being able to, to be able to heal some of that stuff, and then to be able to fully live is what, I'm excited for everybody. And as long as I'm here, like, I'll help people have those light bulbs switch on, because once people can fully live, which, all we have is this moment promise, then I'm just super curious to see, because there's 7.7 billion of us. I just want to see what people choose to do. Like, what part of this world do you want to participate in more than probably 99% of the rest of us? Because we're all so different. That's why these conversations are always fun, Courtney, because like, you have all this life experience, and, you know that you can tap into this, and that you truly are this non-physical energy that you're flowing through and you're connected to. And, the way that you're choosing to flow it out into the world is awesome, because not only are you able to create awesome things like books, like, which I'm gonna ask you about in a second, and then also to be able to help people have their own, light turn on, and so they can go shine it out is awesome. Like, I really appreciate it about you and about everybody who's just being, who and what all of us truly are, because it's fascinating to see what, someone just decided to go create a smartphone, and now look, we're having these computers that we're talking on and all this technology. Like, that's not a part of my life, path. So create any technology. However, I do enjoy using it very much.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about doing the healing work. So when I tune in and I speak to the spirits, I see the person's body in front of me, but what I get an insight into is all the magic inside of them. And I would love to just bottle that or record it, what I see in my mind, because people are just pure magic. Like, every single client I've ever worked with, I've been, at the end of the session, I'm like, wow. Like, every single person is absolutely amazing. And we all form part of this web of life. Like, we're all here for a reason. And the thing that I find really interesting about, you know, how our present life relates to our past lives is we can look at our present life and be like, okay, like I'm working in strategy, I'm doing this in the corporate world and kind of feels good, and I'm ticking all the right boxes in the material world, but it feels like there's something missing. And it's generally because over the course of all of our lives, we've been doing like an apprenticeship. Like I tend to work with healers. Like that's who I tend to get, people who have this natural healing essence inside of them, and people love being around them. And it's because they're here to help people heal. And that can be through song, or, you know, I've got chefs that I work with. My dad's a DJ, and they say that he's a healer because people release trauma on the dance floor. But we've been undertaking this apprenticeship for all of our lives. We keep coming back and doing a similar role. And we're here to continue that work. But when we arrive, we actually forget, you know, what we're here to do. And then over the course of our life, we're here to remember. And so what we tend to forget is that we have lifetimes of this knowledge. And in each life, we just come back to keep building on it and keep learning. So that's where I get this insight into who people have been across all of their lives, but we can generally only remember this one. So, you know, if we could see ourselves more as the soul and the whole being that's been through, you know, civilizations rising and falling and all of this crazy stuff, then we would see how magic we are. But if we only see ourselves as working in finance in this life, or, you know, in any number of different roles, then you're only getting this tiny little segment of the overall piece.
I love it. I love it so much. And what you just described is and the awareness of that is what gives me so much, one of the reasons why I have so much compassion for all of humanity. Because if someone right now is experiencing a part of life where like none of us would sign up to experience like that roughness, whether they're, you know, incarcerated, or, you know, they've, you know, done some heinous things where it's like, you know, even that, like, I know that there's a good chance that at some point along the line that I've experienced that as well. And I can have compassion because, you know, in all of us, even if I didn't take it back to where I've experienced that in a past life or anything, which is a good chance that I have. But even if I hadn't, you know, we're all capable of, you know, feeling sad, depressed, you know, lonely, you know, angry, rageful in this life experience at any moment, and blissful, joyful, happy, and everything in between. And so that gives me so much compassion. And I just know who and what, when you mentioned seeing the magic in people, I just know who and what all of us truly are. And I know that there's no, you know, special breed of human where only they have the ability to feel love, or to be able to be connected, and to be able to flow this non-physical energy out of us that we are. So that just makes us all connected, and it makes me feel connected to every single person that I ever put my attention on. And I love that, you know, you're giving people an additional way to be able to see, you know, how awesome that all of us are, whether it be, you know, right here and now, or, you know, leading up to now from everything that's happened in the past. So
yeah, awesome. Absolutely. And I think it's because it's really interesting. I literally came out of the womb really struggling with religion, and I look back now, and I've had so many past lives where I've experienced religious persecution in some way. So I think, you know, we are the way we are because of who we've been in the past. But it was hilarious to me that I had Hindu deities come through, because I've never had anything to do with Hinduism. When Krishna first came through, he spoke his name, and I was like, who's Krishna? But something I've really loved about learning about, I guess, the Hindu philosophy on life is that I think in religion in today's world, we tend to demonize the black and the darkness and the shadow, and we really want to lift up the light, and we celebrate that. Whereas the thing I really love about their teachings is that if you think of it as like yin and yang, the black and the white, like Krishna always tells me in my chats with him that we're not here to be either, we're here to walk the line in the middle. And to me, that was beautiful. And it kind of felt like they were giving me permission to just be human and to not feel like I had to be like this. Because, you know, I still have moments where I get really angry, and I'd love having a really tidy house. So when the house isn't tidy, like I struggle with that. I still have very human responses to things. Because it's funny is when I do have these like little eruptions where I get frustrated, or, you know, and one of my family will say, but you're spiritual, like, aren't you supposed to like not be like this? And it's not true. Like, we're all human and we're here to experience everything, the breadth of full emotions, the breadth of experiences, and we don't know how we're going to react in those moments. Like, we're here to learn. So, but I just love that idea of walking the line in between, because I think we can feel so much pressure to be the best, to be the most perfect, to be the lightest, to never experience those negative thoughts, when really, if we don't experience those negative thoughts, how can we empathize with other people, like you said?
Absolutely. And how can we have the desires and the, you know, the excitements and the things that we want to move towards without having the times where, you know, we didn't have them, and we realize that, oh, this is a really rough part of life. This is a rough relationship that I've had. This is what I would really love to experience in a relationship. Like, we wouldn't know that without having the times of life where, you know, we had the rough relationship, or the rough job, or the rough, you know, health, you know, challenge, or anything else. So I just love to be aware of it. And when you mentioned walking the line and the center point, like, for me, that just feels like calm, peace, being content,
Yeah.
just being like, I'm able to hear, I'm able to connect, I'm able to witness, to see awesome synchronicities. And I love that part of life, that walking the line place, because momentum, I'm very aware of energy and momentum, either direction. And for me, I don't personally, it's a personal choice. All of us can make whatever personal choice. I could just feel my energy, and I'm so used to just at least wanting to feel at peace, that when I start to feel momentum flowing in a direction, like maybe I'm being anxious about something, or it's been a long time since I blamed anyone or done anything like that. But in past, you know, part of my life where that was part of my life experience, the energy picks up so quickly to where it just feels, you know, heavier and heavier and heavier, worse and worse and worse. And nobody wants to be around you. You don't want to be around yourself. Like, it's just a rough go, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just very aware of it. And I much prefer knowing that this moment's the only moment promised, and none of us know how long this human experience is going to be. Exactly. I love the moments where the momentum is carrying me up to where it's like, ooh, like I know I'm connected. I know I'm tapped in, so I can just let the thoughts come into my mind, the words flow out of my mouth, the actions are going to be loving and compassionate and fun and exciting. And then momentum can take it up even further than that, because there's no limit to it. And ooh, now I'm like blissful, and I'm having the time of my life, and I have awesome people around, and like, where did all you cool people come from? Like, I just love those parts of life so much. And I don't require like those parts like every moment for me to feel good at all. Like, I'm not like either that or like feeling bad because I don't have that. But I like the walking the line as a jumping off point for momentum, to where I'm very aware of energy in that moment, and I can feel the dips and the jumps, you know, from
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it gives us permission to learn and to be ourselves, and to know that we're going to be amazingly bright in one moment, and then we can be incredibly dark in the next. And that I think it's that awareness, and that's what I've definitely found for me the last couple of years, that when I feel myself, you know, going into somewhere that's a bit darker, that I can now take a step back and go, what's happening here? You know, where is this coming from? Like, what's the trigger point for me? And getting better at being able to look at that. And I think that's where the peace comes from, is when you're not caught up in that moment, where you're like a train that's already left the station, when you can actually take a step back and reflect on that. And I think, you know, our pain does give us our context. I think it can give us our greatest teachings. Like those couple of years where Jules was so unwell, that was hands down, you know, one of the most painful parts of my life. But I think it also has built me into the human that I am now. And that, you know, especially when I swapped from the corporate world, where I was used to earning, you know, a couple of hundred, you know, thousand a year, and we had this great life, and we were living by Sydney Harbour, and it was amazing, to then quit that world and to go into the healing world, where there were times where we were, you know, literally living on rice and beans and had no idea if we were going to have somewhere to live in the next week. And while I hated that at the time, what it gave me was this intense sense of empathy for everybody else, and what everyone's going through. So yeah, I think we need those moments. They make us strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for all of us, like if we trade away any of the challenges of our life, then we're not who we are right now. Like we don't have the lessons, we're just not the same person. So even if we didn't experience those challenges, it's very likely that we'll have to experience some other type of challenge to learn the lesson. Because if we don't learn the lesson, then we're not here doing what we, came here to do if we're not aware of what we, need to be aware of in order to do it.
Yeah.
So I didn't always think of that life this way, but now it's like, oh my gosh, like the things that I'm creating right now or manifesting right now, like there's no way that any of them would be happening. I wouldn't have made any of the impact that I've made on any of the humans that I made impact on if I would have become a professional athlete like I thought I was going to be from the time I was 2 to the time I was 23, when finally an injury was like, all right, you're not playing anymore. Like this is it. And
Yeah.
so, but if I would have had, what I thought was, what I wanted, which is so interesting. Like it's so interesting how but that initially threw me into like the darkest place of my life, like being depressed, like not knowing what direction to turn, like nothing sounded exciting and fun. Just like, dang, this is not what I thought life was going to be.
Yeah.
But then it's
Yeah.
like what sprung me to everything that I'm doing now. And now I'm super excited that life isn't just about, because I probably use the word fun more than anything. Like I love just enjoying moments. And at the same time, like that would have been a fun lifestyle, but would I have gotten like the fulfillment of like helping people? Like I don't, maybe just from entertainment, maybe they were like, oh, he's like one of my favorite players, but I don't know. I appreciate the lessons or the challenges now, all of them, because I just appreciate who I am and just living this life the way, I'm living it, and getting to share and help other people, have that awareness for themselves too. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there definitely would have been, like your career in sports would have definitely played into who you are now. Like, after I first, I guess, started embracing what I'm doing now, I would look back and think, if my grandma had talked to me about this when I was a child and my abilities, would I have just become a healer straight off the bat? Like, where would I be if I just was born into this? And like, I was listening to someone speak the other day, and he's been a spiritual teacher since he was 8, which sounds crazy, but when you listen to the guy, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And I would look back at my strategy career, and I'm like, wow, I spent, like, I'm, turning 39 this year, and I'm like, how different would my life have been had I just bypassed that and got straight down, to the down and dirty of what I was actually here to do. But then now I can appreciate that my corporate career taught me how to speak to people and how to distill, what can be quite complex, spiritual ideas, or like it taught me to communicate with everybody. And I think that's part of what plays into my success now, is that I can literally speak to anybody, because that's what I had to do for products. I had to figure out, well, how do we communicate this product and its features and benefits to the population? Whereas now it's, well, how do I work with you and speak with you in a way that helps you to understand the potential that you have within you? And whilst there might be some blocks, how do we go about removing those now? And yeah, I think our life is almost broken up into 2 different acts. We have, act 1, where we go through we start our journey and we step into what we think that we're here to do, and we go through that process. And I think some people are lucky enough to kind of step straight into what they're here to do, but I also think that's probably their path. Whereas others of us, like you and I, we've already had our part 1, and now we're stepping into our part 2. And that's where I think it's never too late to change. Like, if you aren't feeling that sense of joy and happiness and fulfillment, and you're wondering, was my life supposed to be like this? Then there is absolutely no better day than today to step into that and to start looking at what life could be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I feel like I'm gonna be here for a while, Courtney, because
Oh, for sure.
I have zero fear of death, just because I know that there's no real. I mean, it's just the physical body that stays, and then I just keep going. Keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would be like such a waste of all the awareness that I have and all the things that I'm creating that I know would be just awesome impact on the planet. I'm like, that'd be such a waste if I just like left now. So I have to
Yeah.
do more while I'm here.
Well, that's why I feel sad when people do pass, and I think sometimes it's their time, and then other times it's not, because we're here with 7 billion other people on the planet, and we all have free will. So sometimes we collide with each other in ways that mean that we end up departing, and I think that's what made me so sad about reading about Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna and the other people who are on the plane on the helicopter over the weekend, because there's just that sense of potential and everything that could have happened that gets cut off, and I think that's devastating. And I that's something I think that's why I'm so passionate about working with people who are considering leaving early, is that these dark moments that we experience, they do pass. But if we're stuck in that dark moment and we end our life then we never get to actually step into who we are supposed to be. And often those dark moments play a part in who we're going to be in the future. So
Absolutely. I recorded a video about, because I just felt so called to give some clarity as far as death and dying, and so that it could bring people peace when it came to Kobe.
yeah,
Because it was super sad for me, and at the same time I'm so appreciative that I'm aware that I can still feel Kobe, and I can still flow appreciation and love, and feel his non-physical energy. And I like did it right on camera, where I was like sharing that with people so that they can have some clarity as far as what death and dying really was, and that we can still connect with the energy of Kobe. And it's really interesting that his death, because in the US, he's a global icon, but here in the US, and I lived in LA for 6 years before I lived here in Miami. My goodness, like people taking it hard, like a family member passed. And what he's highlighted for all of us is just like what's possible when we are, because whenever we're passionate about anything, like we're connected. Like that is a very connected energy to God, the universe, all it is. Like that's so you have all of the, like you're utilizing all your power when it comes to passion. And then he also showed us the power of focus, where if we like put our attention at anything, that's where all of our energy is going. And if we flow energy at anything long enough, like we're going to have physical manifestation. And he showed us that not only in basketball and to become like one of the world's greatest, but then he like switched it and won an Oscar. Like he just showed us like just two drastically different examples in arguably the most competitive industries in the world, and to reach the pinnacle in two different ones. Like he showed us what's possible for all of us. That's the way I look at it, because I know that the same non-physical energy flowing through Kobe is what's flowing through me, flowing through you, flowing through all of us. So I don't look at it as Kobe is just this special breed of human that only he could. Now he was obviously blessed with like some physical gifts to where it allowed him to play basketball and be 6'7" and be super athletic. So that's not in the cards for all of us. Like one of my guests said that all of us could choose, and we could use this example for basketball and for Kobe. Like all of us can choose to like dribble a basketball and like shoot it, but all of us aren't going to be Kobe Bryant. So we can we're just, there's different things that we're more here to do. But I just feel like a lot of people are becoming aware of those things as far as what the power of our focus and being connected and passionate about anything can do in this life, and just reminded that it could end at any time. So I've just been hearing a lot of people talking about just being wanting to focus on what for them they want to do for the world and put out into the world while they're here, because it was a great reminder that it's not promised for any of us. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we've had a couple of friends pass in the last year, and it just keeps reminding me, like we're spending this year traveling. So with my wife, Jules, and our daughter, Bella, who's 15. And, whilst it's not the most sensible decision, like if you look at material things, we're like literally like gypsies at the moment with our bags, and we're about to head off to Bali for 5.5 weeks. We did 3 months in the US last year, but we just want to experience life while we're here. And whilst there's benefits to having a home base and security, right now what we're looking for is freedom and experiences. And yeah, because we I guess in this body, we only get one shot at being exactly who we are and our best selves. And so that's what we're focused on for sure.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. So I don't fail to mention it. Your book. The first time I ever heard of Krishna was from Wayne Dyer. He used to mention. I forget what he would mention specifically, but I used to listen to a lot of Wayne Dyer, and he used to mention them a lot. So when you started being able to channel Krishna, you just like the information was obviously super powerful that you're receiving, and you just wanted to flow it into a book. What's your book all about?
Yeah. So what's funny is when I was right at the end of my corporate career, and people would ask me like, Court, if you weren't a strategist, what would you do? And it was almost at this point where I just didn't care anymore about what anyone thought. I'd stopped it was like I'd lost my filter, and I would say to people, I just want someone to give me a lab where I can sit in front of a computer and learn all the information in the world. Like that's my dream, and that's what I wanted. And it's funny because when I look at my relationship with Krishna and the spirits, like I got my wish. Like I can literally sit there and speak to them and ask any question that I'd like to ask, and answers come through. So for me, I've always been a lifelong learner. I love learning. I always have. It's just what lights me up. And so this book that we did together, this first book, and I've now channeled 3 books with him in particular. But this first book is all about life on earth as we were destined to live. So whilst we can get very wrapped up in the material world and climbing the corporate ladder and doing all of those things, we're actually here to rediscover ourselves and to also learn how to interact with the earth as well. Because I think being so tech focused, and I think it was Jason Silver who said that we are gods in what we can build, and we're great at stepping into that role. But I also think we've lost our connection to the earth in a lot of ways, and what our relationship with Mother Nature can do for us. So that book is essentially about that. But what I loved about that is every day I would just sit down and I'd say, what do you want to talk about today? And then each chapter would take about 20 minutes, and it was essentially 111 different perspectives on everything from life, love, suffering, joy, climate change, dinosaurs, because they were I'm like a big Jurassic Park fan. So dinosaurs were, something that I wanted to know personally. But then the second book that we did was all about Krishna's perspectives on the path to enlightenment. So that was fascinating for me as well, being on this spiritual journey, being able to be the student and write at the same time, and then be able to share the information.
Absolutely. That sounds really fun to be able to.
Yeah, it is. It's a good job.
Yeah, to be able to be becoming aware of things that you're even curious about, and to be able to flow them out at the same time to share is super awesome. I love that. What was your process to channel Krishna? Did you have to just get into like a meditative state, or you just like you kind of just knew the frequency and you could just get to it at any time to channel it?
So this was kind of a weird story. So this is how I guess I would call it my spiritual awakening, how that happened. So when I was contemplating leaving strategy, I very strategically decided that I would start meditating, because I thought, if I can just empty my brain of everything that's in it, because human beings are like kitchen sponges. We're amazing at soaking up everything that life offers us, but no one ever teaches us how to like wring ourselves out and release. So I had this theory that if I could meditate, I could empty my mind, and then the right thing would probably just come to me, not in a spiritual sense, just in a very human way. So I'd started doing that. And on the morning that he came through, I'd been out for a run, and then I just did a very mainstream meditation. And I felt like a spiral activate in my spine, which I now know is what the spiritual world calls a Kundalini awakening. So I felt like this huge sense of energy come up through me, and I felt like my arms were all lit up, and I just felt this huge urge to write. And I'd channeled before, but what was coming through was all about the creation of the universe and really different stuff. And so I did what would become the first 4 chapters of Conversations with Krishna. But it was funny because we were going for dinner that night at a friend's place, and she was a yoga teacher. And I just said to her, look, can you just read this and just tell me what you think? Because it's not from me. It's not anyone I've ever spoken to before. And she said, Court, this is Hindu cosmology. Where did you get this from? And I was like, I've got no idea. And then the next day I asked who it was, and I got Krishna, and I still had no idea who Krishna was. And for those of you who don't know, Krishna is the Hindu deity of love, compassion, and tenderness. And so now it's like we've been connected ever since. Like he's always with me. That day though, I had really weird food cravings. Like it was almost like something else had joined me. I was really excited to drive the car, which I drive everywhere. So driving is not exciting for me. But it was just like a merging of me with something else, like something had been switched on. But ever since then, they're always around me. Like Jules, my wife, went to Ecuador for a couple of months to work on her healing. And she was like, I'm worried that you're going to be on your own for the 3 months that I'm gone. And I was like, no, I've got like 5 or more spirits that are all around me all the time. So it's kind of like being with my family, in that I probably spend more time with them than I do with my real human friends. Whilst I love to pick up the phone, it's like having just a bunch of awesome people around you that are just there for your highest good and want to help you. So
I love it. I love it. I almost selfishly want to ask you a question, since you have 5 spirits around you right now.
we'll have to do a healing sometime.
I love it. This is awesome conversation. No, I love every conversation like this, and all the ones I have, just because it's just we have such different life experiences, all of us, and I just understand everything you're describing. I understand it so clearly because of I just understand who and what we truly are. But it's awesome because that's just a different life experience than I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
For sure. Even
But
like the urge to drive a car, like to eat foods, like that's awesome.
But we all have these guides around us. It's just that we're not tuned into it, and we're not taught how to tune in. Like you were saying earlier, we're all born with these abilities. Like we're all exactly the same. Like we're made up of exactly the same things. It's just that I think, like I'd talk to our daughter Bella, and I say to her, it's like building a muscle. Like every day I spend 3 or 4 hours like in the spiritual plane. And so for me, it's just like breathing now. So it's just that I've had more time to work on it. So, but we all have spirit guides that step forward for us, you know, at our birth, or some of them have been with us forever, like for the life of our souls. And they're here to support us with anything. So like what I say to my clients is, like, whilst you might not be able to hear them or see them, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It's just that we're generally never told that they're there, and then we're never taught to ask for anything. So from what I've been taught, you know, we have what the spirit world calls free will, meaning that when we come here, we can do whatever the hell we want. We can, you know, we can sit on the couch for the next 30 years and watch amazing Netflix shows, or we can actually like step into our purpose and do what we've come here to do. And no one will interfere, but we can, if we choose to, we can ask our spirit guides for help on like little things to big things. Like when I talked about my wife Jules and her health, like that was a big thing. I was like, guys, I need a freaking miracle. Like, please help me. And then when I go to the pool every morning, I work with, so I have an Aztec healer who's a guide called Mariana. And I say she's like the Beyonce of the spirit world. She's really sassy and fierce. And when I go swimming, I ask her to coach me in swimming. And so she's like taught me to swim. And I've gotten better really quick, but we don't ever think to ask our guides for help with everything. So, but they can't actually step in unless we ask them. So what I say to people is ask for everything, ask for help with everything that you need. Like, it's like having, you know, 4 or 5 amazing trainers and coaches that are there to help you. But if you don't ever ask for their help, then they can't step in.
That's awesome advice. I love that. Anything that you want to, what I love about the internet most, Courtney, is that this conversation will live as long as the internet lives, which seems like it'll be for a while.
Hopefully for a long time.
so, so what, you know, anything that you're inspired to just share with the audience, just, and it could be anything that you feel will impact them anytime they hear this episode, whether it be right when it's released or 50 years from now. Would love to, anything that flows through you would be greatly appreciated for the audience.
I think that it's never too late to start living and really living. Like, I think that's the path that you and I are on right now, is that we're both, as you said, we're working to express who we are in our essence. And if you feel like you're not in that place and that you're not expressing all that is inside of you, or if you feel trapped or constricted in some way, there are so many amazing healers and people around the world that are there working to set you free. So what I would say is that it's never too late to start over. Never too late. You can start in the next minute, in the next hour, in the next day, and literally, you know, change your whole life around.
Love it. Love it. And I'll just, because he's come up in every episode thus since his death, just, we can even take Kobe Bryant as an example of that, like literally close one chapter of life and then open another one, and, you know, was successful in that, you know, was able to be a even more awesome parent and family member, like any of us can. It's like Courtney just said, we could just choose to, you know, to start a new chapter of life right here and now. Like, you don't even have to like drastically shift what you're doing, like as far as like, you know, quit your job if you don't want to. You don't have to, you know, fire your husband or wife. Like, you don't have to do any of these things unless you want to. But you could choose to start to make it a new chapter. And, you know, and conversations like this help do that, because we can have more awareness as far as who and what we truly are. And that's what I'm excited for everybody out there listening is, you know, starting a new chapter if you choose, you know, which every moment is a new chapter for us. I mean, really and true. You know, being able to choose to start this new chapter from a place of being connected to who and what we truly are, being at peace, being content, feeling love for yourself and for others. And it's really fun to live life when that's your right now chapter. And don't make yourself wrong if it's not, because you're human. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Just be really excited if, you know, if your light bulb has come on and you're excited to express yourself, you know, in a way that you truly are. I'm super excited for you, for sure. So
yeah, and I think you can do it in a way that allows you to transition, because at the end of the day, we still, whilst we're spirits living in human bodies, we still have to live in the human world. So we've still got to earn money, and so it doesn't have to be like you said. You don't have to quit your relationship or quit your job today, because you've still got to keep existing here. But you can do it step by step over time. And what I was going to say to you, Noelle, is that what they were showing me about you is that that you're, so I get lots in images and visions, and what they're showing me is you walking along a path with a lantern holding it, and lots of people, you know, walking behind you. So I think your role in this life is definitely to help show others the way, and that you're obviously doing a really beautiful job of that. And thank you for letting me spend some time with you today.
Likewise, I appreciate it. Conversation I would have wanted to have, and thank you for sharing that message. I appreciate that. That's definitely, as long as I'm breathing in this body, that's what I'll be doing, because it's the only thing that really sounds fun. It's really fascinating. Like, everything else is kind of like, I enjoy doing so many things in life, and at the same time, the fulfillment piece and seeing light bulbs switch on. And I just look at life as a movie, and I root for everybody to have, you know, we're the star of our own movie, and we're the producer and the director, and I just want everybody to have as awesome a movie for them as they want to have. You know, if you want a drama where there's like tons of like, you know, dips and turns, then all good, like have it. I just want an adventurous, like fun movie. And I know there's going to be some drama in it too, but not as much as the adventure and the fun.
Yeah. And I think when we're actually living and breathing our gifts, and you know, if you think of like all of our past lives as building to this point, like you've been in training this whole time, and so when you've actually stepped into what you're here to do, it will be fun, because you've been working for it forever. And that's not to say that the instant that you step into it, you'll feel totally lit up. I mean, like for me, it was like an apprenticeship, learning how to do this work again now. But for me now, it is fun. It's like, God, the greatest job in the world. I get to chat to spirits all day and like help people. Amazing. But I think when you are living in that place where you're doing what you were born to do, then it is fun. And so if you're not feeling that sense of fun, then I would encourage you to start looking for it. Absolutely. Whoever you choose to turn to for that help.
Great advice, for sure. You know, we only, regardless of what anyone, you know, believes out there, I've never heard the story of another like exact version of Courtney in this physical, or exact version of Noelle in this physical, like walking around, like, you know, so this physical shell, like this is, we get to experience this life fully, like Courtney mentioned, as who we are now. So let's just see how much we can do with it.
How much fun we can have.
Yeah, might as well. So, yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. And you guys definitely share this episode with anybody that popped into your mind, or share it on social media. You'll definitely impact people. And I'm excited for all of you that heard it and got to hear the awesome love and light coming out of Courtney. And just appreciate you all. Definitely rate and review and make it easier for people to find these episodes, and subscribe if you're not already. And we'll continue having awesome conversations with really amazing humans like Courtney, and have more episodes here soon. Appreciate you all sending love and light and positive vibes, and Happy New Year. I've decided, Courtney, to say that all year. So just because.
Awesome.
I don't know when the cutoff date is, so I'm just gonna keep saying it until it stops coming out. I love it. All right, you guys, we'll talk to everybody soon. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you, Noelle.
Awesome.